Hey guys, welcome to Currently Cringing. I just got back from London. I had my 2 shows there, and I apologize for the podcast delays and gaps. I'm sure I've lost some listeners because I have not been regular. That sounds like I'm talking about my menstrual cycle, but you know what I mean. And I've really been in a bubble this year. And when I say bubble, I just mean I've kept to myself and spoken to, my lifelong close friends, people that I've known for years, literally 5 people. That's about it. And my family, my parents. But outside of that, I really haven't done a good job of contacting people or keeping in touch just because it's been intense. It takes everything out of me to perform at these shows because it gives me so much anxiety. It gives me so much anxiety to the point where, my mom, she's like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? And it's because I love it. I love doing it. But right before a show, I'm just a ball of nuts. And then when I'm not going to a show, I'm either visiting my family in Miami or doing other work things in New York. And so I'm barely in Arizona. But when I am in Arizona, I'm just going to keep it real with you. I'm not well. I'm not well when I'm here. I have not adjusted. I will be moving. I don't do well when I'm in Arizona. My allergies are just awful. I have severe sinus congestions, migraines, my bones hurt. And I think that's just because I'm so used to moisture and being hydrated and humidity that it's just a shock to my system. Being here is a shock. And my body can't take it. And I'm not here for much time during the year, quite frankly, but I don't like it here. And I apologize if I've offended anybody who listens, who lives in Arizona. It's just not for me. Everyone has been extremely kind, but at this phase in my life, I knew this was temporary and I knew this wasn't going to be my permanent home, and I am moving. But at this stage in my life, I just want to be around my family and my friends. That's all I want. And so when I'm here, it's just a buzzkill. It is what it is. I'm from a big city. It feels like a town here. And I knew all of this would happen. My husband knew this would happen, but we did this, together for 2 years for his career. But it's time to move on. I will be moving back east. But that's another reason there's just been delays, and I just don't feel good when I'm here physically. My health, on top of all the traveling, it's just not where it should be. I'm used to being energetic. I'm used to moving and feeling good, even when I'm depressed. I've told you guys my baseline is depressed, and I'm good. I love life, but that is my baseline. But when I'm here, I just want to stay in bed. I can't move. I feel lethargic. It's just something in the air here, something here. The dust, I don't know. It just doesn't agree with me. And my friends, my close friends, my family, obviously my husband, we all know this. My husband has the same situation. We're totally in sync. He's getting allergies and migraines as well. On a high note, though, it was such a cool experience for both of us because we had both never been here. And it was a great place to start our life together without any interference from anyone. Like, we don't know anyone here. I mean, now we know so many people. Everyone here has been so lovely. I make it sound like I'm in prison or something. That's not the case. I actually live in a very, very nice place. It's very bougie. I can't complain. It's very nice. and everyone who does visit me. So grateful for my friends who have come from Florida to come see me. I've had so many visitors. It's amazing. When I'm not touring or I'm not in Miami, when I'm here, someone's always visiting me and it's fantastic. But they're like, what is your problem? Like, this place is amazing, but it's not home. That's the problem. It's not home. And I knew it wasn't going to be home, but I also didn't know that, I wouldn't adjust, my health, my body. I just don't feel good when I'm here. And I know it sounds like an excuse, but in 3 years of recording this podcast, I never missed a day until the comedy tour, obviously this March, and since I moved here. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, what is it? I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good physically when I'm here. It is what it is. And I did that astrocartography. For those of you who don't know, astrocartography is when you look up your chart and you find out where the key planets are on the world map, and you can see where you would thrive in the world. And of course, you know me, like astrology pro, I did that as soon as I knew we were moving here, and we made that decision together. As soon as I knew, I thought, let me look it up. And it said precisely all of this. It said, like, I wouldn't do well here, and, I'd feel isolated from friends and family. And all of that is true because I'm, in Arizona. It's a fucking island. Like, I think the only international destinations are Mexico and London. Like, I'm not used to that. I'm a big city girl. It's a schlep every time I have to go somewhere, which I think contributed to just me feeling like shit all the time most of this year, because flying 5.5 hours back and forth weekly just took its toll on me. And so I knew this would happen. I did the astrocartography, and the places I've known that I would thrive in, it's New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, although I would never live in Massachusetts. Never say never, but not for me. And I think Greenland, of course, that's where I would thrive, apparently. Not going to live there, but, of course, my chart's like, go live in fucking Greenland. But in Miami, it says I'd be in a meditative state. And that's really funny because when I am in Miami, and most of my life, I've always been introspective. And if you've listened to past episodes of mine, I'm always having an existential crisis, and I try to stay busy to avoid those thoughts, which is why I say my baseline is depression, because the thought of leaving this planet and never seeing my family and friends again, it just has never sit right with me, even since I was a child. Like, it's just always in the back of my head. And those thoughts do enter my mind a lot when I'm in Miami, and I do meditate and go to yoga, and I'm really into, walking and health when I'm in Miami. So it makes total sense. I've looked up other places because, of course, I just came back from London, and I'm like, could I live in London? And it was like, nope, you will not thrive in London. I looked up LA for shits and giggles, even though the West Coast isn't for me. And of course, wouldn't thrive there either. And, I even looked up Dubai and Doha because I recently went to those places, and I'll talk about that in the other episodes coming up. And I would apparently thrive there. I'd receive success and recognition if I lived in Dubai or Doha, which is interesting. So I just got back from London. I had 2 sold out shows there, which I still can't believe. And wow, the London crowd, they were lit, guys. I mean, if I'm going to talk about the entire tour and which crowds were the most lit, I'm going to keep it real. New York, New Jersey, Philly, and London. Raleigh was great because they were ratchet, and, they took me out after. I mean, I go out after every show, but Raleigh was just lit, as in it was a good time after the show. But I'm talking about just audiences that are loud and make the whole entire experience just that much more fun. I'm going to say New York, New Jersey, Philly, and Raleigh. San Jose and Irvine, they were awesome. Those shows were sold out, but they were kind of, it's a bougie crowd. Like they're laughing, but it's like a light giggle. But New York, New Jersey, Philly, and London, wow. Like the energy is just unmatched. And I'm going to give myself a break before I go back on tour to just hunker down and really decide what it is I want to do with this. And by this, I mean comedy, because I'm in my soft girl era and I always keep it real with you guys. It's great and there is an ROI here. But the most money I've ever made was through my businesses, through my online business. I did not make money doing family karma. I mean, yeah, money was made, but nothing to write home about. And yeah, same with comedy. Yeah, there's money, but it's not that much. And so I'm just thinking, do I go back to my roots, which is businesswoman? It's what I do best. And is there a world where I can do it all? And by do it all, I don't mean like do it all in the way you hear it, like, oh, I'm going to do it all in life. I mean, do it all in the career part of my life, as in, can I be in fashion, create design clothes, be a comedian, develop new products? That's at the core of what I love to do. That's the reason I pitched the show, obviously, was to showcase Indian culture on TV. But the second part of all of that was to sell clothes. I wanted to be a designer and learned pretty quickly that, okay, this isn't the route. Like reality TV isn't going to sell my clothes for me. It's a different day. It's a different time. The pandemic changed everything. Streaming changed everything. When my TikToks and my reels or whatever are getting more views than the actual show, there's clearly a disconnect. And that's, when I was like, okay, I also need to find a husband because I want a life partner, and then took time to do that. And I'm so thankful I did, because I can honestly say to this day, at this point, sitting here on the couch, my husband's the best thing that happened to me. He is so supportive. He came to London with me. It was incredible. And everyone met him, and I love how all the girlies hit on him. They literally hit on him at my shows. I mean, he's come to 2, but whenever we're out and about, like everyone hits on him, and I actually find it adorable and charming. And if you know me, my husband has been trained. He just stands there. Like he's not moving. He's not reacting. He's not smiling back. He's just standing next to me because he knows better, because he has a brain. We got back from London, and after my first show in London, we had the best time. I mean, my friends from Spain had come. I have a best friend living in Spain who I did my MBA with in University of Miami. And we've been friends for 16 years now, like one of my closest friends, and she lives in Spain. She came with a bunch of girlfriends to my show, and they're a bougie group. And so we had done all the bougie things earlier, and then we, went to my show. And we had the best time. I swear to God, it was Nazar. For those of you who don't know, Nazar is evil eye, like bad vibes, like bad juju. And so after my show, we were waiting for an Uber, and our friend had told us, be careful with your phone in Europe. Like people are just snatching phones. And that's just bizarre from an American standpoint, because that's like 2006 crime. Like when the iPhone came out, like you're swiping iPhones. Like in America, people are like, I have the 16. Like, what's the 15? Like, I'm already on the 16. Like, that's where we're at. Like, even the homeless person has an iPhone. It's not a big deal here. And I still don't know how that works either, because it's an expensive phone. Like, it's a $1,500 phone. Like, I don't know how everyone in America has one, but you get the gist. It's not a big deal here. It's like mainstream. But in Europe, apparently you can get a lot of money for iPhones and people are still rocking like old phones, you know? And so I had told him, like, don't put your phone out. And I travel with a chain on my phone. So, yeah, I've been doing that for years, like for a decade now. And of course, it's now midnight and we're waiting for our Uber. And I'm like, babe, put your phone away. And as soon as I said that, I kid you not, 3 seconds later, a man comes swooshing by on a motorized bicycle with a helmet and swipes my husband's phone right from his hands. And yeah, that was that. That kind of set the tone for the rest of the trip. And the next day I had my show. We went to the Apple store. We went to 2 Apple stores. Never been to the Apple store at Harrods. So that was interesting. That was cool. That was fun. Went to the Apple store and then realized UK Apple Care is not the same as US Apple Care. And so we couldn't get a phone and found out you cannot buy an iPhone in Europe and return it in America. You know, because we're like, what if we just get a temporary phone? You know, what if they don't have the 15 terabyte? And that wasn't an option. And so, because we're millennials, we changed our ticket and we came back 3 days early. We were supposed to go to Paris. And a lot of our friends told us Paris is worse. And if anyone's been to Paris recently, let me know. I was talking to my other friend Raj the other day who had just come from Paris and London, and he said, it's the pits, you know, and by worse and the pits, I just mean it's just a situation now where there are so many homeless people everywhere and people are just robbing anything. And that's a shame because it was not the case 10 years ago. I don't know what's happening in the world. Feels like the same thing is happening everywhere. And, you know, that was that. But we had the best time ever in London. It was nice. But I did notice that everywhere we went, there were just Arab men. Arab men at high tea at Harrods, Arab men at high tea at the Prada Cafe, Arab men at Annabelle's, which is a private club we were invited to. And I was just wondering, like, okay, why is it only like Arab men? Like, where's everyone else? And I was talking to, you know, one of the locals and they're like, oh, well, those are the only people that can now afford London. You know, they come from Qatar or United Arab Emirates or Saudi or wherever, and they come and they spend their coin, honey. They're walking out of Hermes with, you know, bags and bags of Birkins and belts and scarves and God knows what else, but they're walking in there with like money to blow. And that makes total sense because just like America now, you know, the minimum wage and what people are getting paid in our countries, we're supposedly called first world countries. It's not enough. People can't pay rent, let alone enjoy the fun activities of the holidays. Like, you know, I'm someone that enjoys a high tea when I'm in London. You know, it's something I splurge on. And that's probably something I like to do even when I'm in New York. I like to go to the Ritz-Carlton, you know, during the holidays and have a high tea there. But now, even locals can't afford those things. And so what you're seeing are foreigners, you know, foreigners with money. You see it in Miami. The locals in Miami, they're not going to these hoity-toity places. You know, Art Basel, the locals, they can't afford to go. The people that are going to these events, like the Instagram events that you see, like Formula One, unless, you know, one of my friends has a corporate pass or something, like, no, the people that are going are the wealthy. Before, you know, anyone could kind of save up and go. That's not the case anymore in a lot of countries. And it was interesting to see that even in the UK, that the local British person is at home. You know, the people spending money in London are coming from abroad to enjoy the holidays and then go back to their own countries. And in the same way, I've seen New York City kind of deteriorate. And I've said this before, I lived in the best years of New York City, right? Like 2011 to 2017. And obviously went there many times throughout my childhood because my dad is a textile distributor and it's the garment center of the world, especially in the 90s and the 80s. It was where everything happened, and that's where fashion happens. And the same thing is happening now, in Europe, what's happening in New York. It's just the deterioration of things because people aren't getting paid their worth and there's no money. And so what you see is people can't afford things and that ruins the economy, which in turn, leads to crime and so on and so forth. This isn't a political podcast. And so I had the best time, definitely a core lifelong memory. The first time performing in London in Soho Theatre, like what? Like who are you? I don't even know sometimes. And so I'm just trying to figure out what am I going to do with that, because I do want to continue my businesses as well and just trying to figure out how to make it all work. And that's going to take a minute. I'm going to spend the first quarter of the year, God willing, the new year, to do that, to really lay things out and figure out how to maneuver it all and possibly throw in a kid in the mix. Still TBD there too. Like there's so many things, all good things, first world problems, but a lot to think about. Definitely a lot to think about. And since I've been in this space now in comedy, I have noticed that the people that seem to get opportunities, that seem to thrive in this space are men, right? And we always knew that in kind of every field in life for a woman trying to do anything in any space. But I was a fan of Matt Rife, who is a TikTok comedian. And I followed him in the pandemic. I thought he was hilarious. Followed him on IG and didn't go see him because I'm interested in millennial comedy and I'd say comedians who have a relatable story to me, and I'm a person of color. So generally, probably South Asian comedians or, African American or Black comedians, those are people I'm generally geared toward. That's the story I relate to. And I think at the end of the day, we all want to be relatable or feel like someone can relate to us. And so that's where our money goes. And so I didn't think much of it when his Netflix special came out. And so I thought, let me watch. And then, of course, found out, he made a joke about domestic violence. And a lot of comedians make these kinds of jokes. I grew up before cancel culture where I was watching Showtime Presents. I was like 9, watching like Russell Peters and Chris Rock and, Eddie Murphy, like Raw, all of these people watching their comedy and cackling, being like in elementary school, which was probably inappropriate, but they did it with skill, right? You still laughed and you kept it moving, but this Matt Rife guy apparently hates women and his audience, which is all women. I guess he didn't think it was cool enough to have a female demo. And so he releases this Netflix special, and I'm surprised. Actually, am I surprised that Netflix gave this the green light? No, because look at all their specials. It's all like white men, right? Because everyone's like, oh, you should be on Netflix. Like, first of all, it would be an honor. Second of all, they don't know who I am. And third of all, based on their roster and who they seem to give specials to, like, you need a dick. Like, you need a dick to be on there. For the most part. They'll sprinkle in a female here or there. I get it. But yeah, that's my stance on that. But I saw this special and I couldn't finish it. And I love watching comedy specials. Like the reason I started watching comedy specials the new ones, right? Because I grew up watching comedy specials, but then the new ones aren't that great, but my husband loves watching them. And so we were watching it and we couldn't get through it because it was just uncomfortable to watch. And he's so funny on TikTok, this Matt Rife guy. So I'm like, I don't know what happened, and I was rooting for him. Like, I think we all were on IG, and I even commented when his special came out. I mean, he doesn't know I exist, but it's just sad to see that that's what you did with your opportunity, but he'll keep thriving because that's what happens. A lot of these white men, they just keep thriving, right? Like they keep getting specials. And the beauty of today, 2023, is you can carve your own path. You can do your own thing. You don't really need a network or a streamer. You can create your own social media presence and kick ass and take it from there, which is kind of what I've done. And I own all my shit. I don't report to anybody. I don't listen to anybody. I don't have to do things I don't want to do. I just, I work for myself. But yeah, what else happened this week? Oh yeah. Oh my God. How did I even forget? Okay. So I am working with Laser Away. This is not sponsored, by the way, for the podcast. Not sponsored. I'm working with Laser Away on a campaign on social media, and I'm lasering my entire bottom half, my legs and my hoo-ha, basically a Brazilian, like my asshole, like everything. There is nothing more humiliating than spreading your ass cheeks for someone, whether it's getting a wax or to get zapped for laser. And I just wanted to talk about that briefly because as women, the things we have to do, like you're giving birth, and unless you're having a C-section, you have to spread your legs open. And then if you're removing hair in your asshole, you got to spread your cheeks open. Like, when does it end? It's just constant, like, spreading and humiliation. Like, that's what I was thinking while I was getting my asshole zapped. I was like, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it because I want to be hairless. And 10 years ago, I lasered my entire arms and underarms. And I barely have any hair on my legs or my hoo-ha because I've waxed for so many years. But I don't know if you've seen those older ladies that have waxed. They've waxed their upper lip for years, and now they have like those wrinkle lines on their skin above their lip. And I'm wondering, like, does that happen to your vagina? Like, does that happen to the vagine? I've never asked an older woman. Does it all like hang around down there towards the end of it all? I don't know, but I've threaded my upper lip for years now because I don't want those wrinkle lines on my upper lip. But I'm currently in the process of lasering my Brazilian area. And it's interesting. It's just interesting and humiliating all at the same time. And it hurts. It hurts to get zapped in your asshole. Like, no one talks about it. And it hurts less for me because I've waxed for so many years, but I can't imagine like people that are new and have not waxed down there and just straight shaving and going to get lasered. Like, that must hurt like a motherfucker. Like, that must hurt so much. Oh, and before I leave, one more thing. I'm a nickel in London. Like, I'm pretty good looking, here in London. I'm a nickel. Okay? Everyone at my show in London was so fashionable, so put together. I mean, you guys really put out all the stops for me. Everyone in London is a dime, to the point where I had to ask, like, why are you guys so good looking? And they were like, it's because we care about fashion and we take care of ourselves. Like, yeah, duh. Clearly, we've become this lazy society in America. We wear sweats and t-shirts and leggings, and I'm part of that as well. And then you go to London and people are dressed so well. They're not wearing sweatpants. They're wearing like coats and, gorgeous like dresses, and even the men, like they're just so put together. And here we're in our puffers. It's fucking cold. Like, I'm not suffering in cold weather, which I'm not. You know, it's cold. It's cold. I'm wearing a puffer jacket. Like, I don't care if it's hideous. The coat days are gone. I have so many beautiful coats, but they don't keep you warm. Okay. But in London, like, I don't know how they're doing it. They're just thriving in their coats and their scarves and walking around in heels. Like, wow. I wish that I had it in me. And I'd like to. But even here, though, like, I don't know about you, but when I have dressed up and then you're overdressed. And as my mom says, because my mom's decked out every day, like to the gods, glamazon daily, she's like, who cares about everyone else? But I don't have that confidence. I'm not there yet in life. I'm confident in my looks and carrying myself and my personality, but to be in a ball gown, like at Publix, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And speaking of Publix, I'm spending the holidays in Miami at home. We'll be at home. It's going to be fabulous. My brother and my sister are going to be there. And it's tough when you no longer live in your hometown. And when you are there, you want to spend time with your family. And so it's hard to see friends because there really isn't time to see friends. And that's going to be something I'm going to have to figure out because I really want to spend time with my family. And I don't think I have time to see my friends there, but we'll see. We'll try to make it all happen. Again, first world problems. And I guess this episode was a weird way of me apologizing for not being regular on the podcast and not dropping the episode weekly, because as good as my life has been this year, thank God, I just haven't been myself. I am mentally holding it together because the tour took a lot out of me, and physically holding it together because I'm drained, I'm exhausted, and I don't feel good. And so I apologize. And I'm hoping next year we will begin season 4 of this podcast, which is unreal. That will be going on 4 years. And I hope you listen. I hope you don't go away. And I hope you enjoy listening. And please, again, spread the word, like and subscribe, write a review, all of this, and I'm here for the long haul. Thank you.